All right. Well, thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Alex, for putting on this wonderful conference. So my name is Harry Cargile. I am the Director of Academic Technology Strategy and Integration, and no mysteries with this topic. So the name of the session is Update on the First Cohort Migration to the New SUNY DLE. So no mysteries yet.
Harry, I'm just wondering if Kim might want to say a couple of words.
Oh, certainly.
I'm going to let Harry actually just go ahead and jump right in. I will just say that it's been my pleasure to co-lead this project with Harry, who, if you don't know him, is Director of Academic Technology Strategy and Integration in the SUNY Online organization, which is part of Academic Technologies and Information Services and the Provost Office at SUNY System Admin. And Harry has been around longer than me, for sure, and through, I forget the number of migrations, but we are very, very well positioned in this project due to Harry's long experience and leadership in this area. And he's going to tell you all about it in this session. So let me just turn it back to him.
Thank you, Kim. And it is an absolute pleasure to be the co-lead with Kim on this this project. And as Kim mentioned, there have been a few migrations that we've experienced over the years with many of you, and so we're all in this together, and it's a fun process. And so we will make this thing roll. So with that, for the agenda, just a couple of items there. And again, if there are questions as we go through, please jump in. Alex has given me an entire hour, which is amazing. So I may start rolling down the hill. And if I do, Alex, please grab the cane, bring me back in line. But I think that there's a lot of good stuff that we can go over. And again, I want this to be interactive, so ask questions when you have them. So with that, I wanted to mention with the ground rules, questions are good. Some questions we're probably not going to get into many details on. So some of those questions, because this is for both SUNY and non-SUNY personnel, I do appreciate everyone that has attended the session, but we will not be discussing specific tools or contract or pricing or anything like that. For those SUNY folks that are going through the migrations right now, there will be ample opportunity to ask some of those more detailed questions, but we'll keep this a little higher level for this. Other items, how did we get here? I know it's a virtual conference and you're probably asking, why am I still here? But, we'll go through a little bit of a path with that. This is a brand new thing, talking about the DLE environment that we have done before-ish. So we'll talk a little bit about SUNY Online Degrees at scale and how we've kind of evolved our thinking. Why are we doing this? There must be a good reason. The puzzle pieces laid out, and then last but not least, the actual cohort 1 status. So how did we get here? So very high level, this has been a multi-year process to get us from the beginning of the discussions about a digital learning environment to where we are today. So back in 2018, we had a project called the LMS Essential Elements Project. I had the pleasure of working with Rachel Hagerman and Jamie Herron on this project, as well as 1,000 of our friends across SUNY to gather a lot of information about what were those essential elements for an LMS. And I give Kim credit. In 2018, when we first started talking about this, she was already all about digital learning environment. And I wouldn't call it an argument, but I discussed with Kim that digital learning environment was something that people really didn't know what that was. And if we focus on LMS, that was something that was a little more understood across all of SUNY. We were really asking the same questions because the LMS is the hub of our digital learning environment. So we phrased it LMS, and we were able to gather a lot of information that became the baseline for the requirements of our RFP process. So I won't go into all the bullets, all the details, but as you can see, it was a 3-year process that we went through to ultimately get to our selection of D2L Brightspace for our digital learning environment. So this is a brand new thing that we've done before-ish. So what I'm really talking about is SUNY Online Degrees at Scale. So many of you are probably familiar. Back in 2019, for the fall, we launched a separate environment that contained programs and courses from, at the time, 7 campuses that went up to 9 campuses. And it was the first time that we had tried to combine multiple campuses into a single environment like that. So a little prototype, if you will, for what we're doing with the DLE. So this is a flashback slide that I think that we had at a previous SUNY Online Summit. And that was asking the question, what is the challenge that we have? And the challenge that we had was, standard ways that we can get data from campuses. How do we not change things on the campus side? So use campus credentials. How do we create a consistent experience, a fully supported experience that still recognize that courses were delivered by individual campuses, and trying to focus in on non-redundant tools. So concepts that laid the groundwork of what we're trying to do with the DLE. And then an acronym that I've been trying to get to stick for years now, and nobody is using it, but I think that it's really the core of what we're talking about, and that is the student information system, where all the data is coming from, authentication, how you're getting into the system, the learning management system, again, the hub, tools. Tools are not just the LMS tools, but all of the tools that surround the DLE, and then support, really important stuff. So with some reflection, and certainly the SUNY Online Degrees at Scale initiative is still going strong. We still have a number of campuses that are involved in the program, and it's ever evolving. But to look at the way that environment was structured versus how we are setting up the digital learning environment today. So couple areas. So the SIS integration. So there certainly were some timing changes with trying to get the appropriate information into the Degrees at Scale environment. The reason why we had those challenges, and this is both the SIS integration and authentication, was we had separate systems. So the Degrees at Scale was sending a subset of courses, a subset of faculty and students over to this separate environment in order for us to do the things that we needed to do. We also had what we call the SUNY Person ID, which all faculty and staff are assigned a number. And we have a SUNY Student ID, which all students are assigned a separate number. So when we have the situation where a faculty or staff is formerly a student from SUNY, that means that they have both of those IDs. So that was a challenge that we recognize that we've been able to address with the DLE. For LMS, again, separate environments, different processes, different locations of content. So a little hopping back and forth for faculty and some students. Tools, that was a little bit of a training consideration, because the tools that we had in our degrees at scale environment were different than the home tools. And then supports, this was mostly, again, students and faculty hopping between the two different environments. So again, that created some support challenges. And I'm not paying too much attention to the chat. So if there are specific questions that you want me to hit, Kim or anyone, if you want to call those out, or if anyone wants to raise their hand as I go through. Otherwise, I will continue plowing through, and just stop me when you have those questions.
Yep, I think just keep going, Harry. Lots of support for your acronym.
Oh, excellent. That excites me. All right, so why are we doing this? And I refrain from putting why on earth are we doing this? Why are we doing this? There's lots of good reasons. So this is a slide that I stole from Kim. Kim and I'll just say that we collaborate with each other. She builds the good slides and I steal them. It's a wonderful relationship. But this really goes into detail about what the DLE is, and what our goal is. So I won't read through this word for word, but the main things that are coming across is the LMS is the hub. It's the foundation of what we have in the DLE environment. We are looking to have less redundant tools. We are looking to have academic and IT policies aligned. We are looking to have more flexibility with certain tools, and data. We talk about data, we talk about strategy, and that really lays the groundwork of opportunity and things that we can do better that we haven't had the opportunity to do in the past. So very briefly, the different groups, what are some of the benefits? And this is not an exhaustive list at all. And I won't read through all of these things, but what you'll find is that the last two bullets are the same for every single slide. And connection, I shamelessly stole that from yesterday's presentation. And I do believe that connection is invaluable. And with a shared environment that we have for the digital learning environment, there are tons of opportunity for those connections. So for students, we have the ability for seamless access across campus enrollments. So I log in once, I get access to all of my SUNY campuses, or my SUNY courses, regardless of the number of campuses that I'm affiliated with, which is a one of those lessons learned, one of those challenges that we had in the previous system. Instructor faculty, that statement applies to faculty as well, that many faculty teach at multiple campuses. This is going to be a way that there's one single login. You'll have access to all of your content across multiple campuses. So it, again, creates those those connections, creates those opportunities for faculty. And I can't say enough about collaboration. I mean, collaboration, the ability to share resources, the ability to say, okay, everyone doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. You know, things that we've tried to do in the past, and this again gives us a good opportunity and less excuses to find those opportunities to make those things happen. Technical administration and support. Again, we have the connection, we have the opportunity, but there's the recurring theme here, you know, documentation, training support. So all of these things are easier when we are in a shared environment that we're able to do that collaboration and share those things and be together. There are potentials for third-party tools. You know, we talked about less redundancy, things of that sort. So there's potential for system-wide tools that gives us the opportunity, and again, a lot of these things are related with the different slides, gives us the opportunity, and some campuses the opportunity to have tools and functionality available for students and faculty that they otherwise would not have been able to afford or have. So again, creating all sorts of opportunities. And again, recurring theme with connection and opportunity. So institutional, same sorts of things that we hit on before. Cost savings, we have you know, shared, you know, documentation, efficiencies of data. We're able to do more things strategically. So lots of benefits. Again, these were not exhaustive lists, but just, you know, diving into, you know, some of the rationale of why are we doing these things, because it makes sense. So the puzzle pieces laid out. So want to spend a little time on this. So this is something that Kim had spoken about on Monday, and it is really the core of the conversations that we've had with you know, how we're fitting the puzzle pieces together. So I will focus on the boxes in green. So that is the advisory team, the technical implementation work group, campus implementation planning work group, and the template creation work group, as well as the training resources work group. So everything that is labeled in green is a collaborative effort between SUNY system administration and the campuses. And for those 4 boxes to the right, and I wrote down the number this morning. So we have 235 people from campuses and system administration that have volunteered to be a part of those work groups, which is amazing. And I'm sure all of the people involved, you know, especially those that are leading those groups will agree that the feedback, the perspectives has been fantastic. Each of those 4 groups have co-leads, one from SUNY sysadmin, one from a campus, and we wanted to make sure to get those perspectives. And I feel like because we've gone through those that structure and have had those conversations, the decisions that we have needed to make are so much more well-informed. And for those of you that are attending this session that are a part of those groups, thank you for all of those efforts. Thank you for all of the feedback. Even when it's maybe in you know, passionate, perhaps disagreement with certain things, it's important to get those perspectives. And I think that we have been able to have those conversations and understand the importance and opportunity that we have with the environment. So going back to SALTs, we have a student information system. So this is now reflective of the DLE. So keeping in mind the lessons learned from our SUNY Online Degrees at Scale. So we have SUNY systems supporting campuses. That will be an ongoing theme. We have what we are calling a global ID. So the global ID takes the SUNY student ID and the SUNY person ID and combines them into one single ID. So the challenge that we had in our previous environment, where a person could have two identities based on what they're doing on the campus, the global ID will resolve that. So we will have a web service in place that campuses will be able to retrieve that global ID, and that creates opportunity. And to talk about the global ID just a little more, because we have a single ID for any student that will be the same regardless of the number of SUNY campuses that they might be associated with. Once they come into this DLE system, they will be able to see all of their courses. The same with faculty. They will be able to see all of their courses, whether they're teaching or whether they are taking those courses. Integration, certainly SIS is the source of much of the data. So we will have integrations that will happen with that. And something key that is a short term and a long term. So the short term, we will have a data hub that will integrate into the LMS. For the long term, we have the opportunity to be more strategic with data and cut down on the number of times that we're asking campuses for the same information. So I'll continue to use the word opportunity. So there's a lot of opportunities for making SUNY greater and taking those steps forward. So authentication, continued support with the campuses, federated authentication. So we have one single way that campuses will be able to authenticate into the system. What's really important is that we are not asking campuses to change their username and passwords on their campus. So that does not change. What we're able to do is we're able to set up an attribute. So just a value when a specific campus student puts in their username and password, it looks at this one field and says, okay, your global ID is blah. And then it will associate with the account that we have in the LMS. So we can use that to easily get people into the environment. So the learning management system. So I could talk all day on this, but just a couple quick points that I wanted to make. So again, with supporting campuses, as mentioned before, Brightspace is the hub of the DLE, and it's a shared environment, but what's important to note is that campuses will have campus system administrators. They will have a landing page when they authenticate into the system. They will have campus branding, roles. So all of these things will be fully available to campuses within the environment. So from a faculty and student perspective that are not taking courses at multiple campuses, there will be no way of them even realizing that it is a shared environment. The shared environment starts paying dividends when we do have those multi-campus associations where they only need to log in once and then they have access, readily available access to all of their courses without needing to re-authenticate or, jump around. So, which is a big difference from, what we had been doing with our degrees at scale environment. Tools, again, with the support, with our with D2L Brightspace, it is feature rich. So, right off the bat, we are in a good position. As mentioned before, we're looking to have less redundant tools. So the way that I like to look at it is there's an on-ramping and off-ramping process that we will take that will likely be a multi-year process. So we understand that there are critical tools that all campuses have, and we're not going to get in the way of those campuses having those critical tools available. But when we do have opportunities to have shared tools and it makes sense, then that is something that we will have the opportunity to pursue in a much more efficient way with this shared environment. And definitely worth noting that last bullet point, we are looking to have a risk security assessment for any tools that are going into the environment. So it's great that we have an environment. Well, we need to protect that environment. So we do need to take those extra steps to make sure that the environment that we build is a reliable environment that we can trust.
Hey, Harry,
And
there are a couple of questions in the chat that it may make sense to address now.
Sure.
I'll let you decide. There's some questions about what are the feature-rich default tools. Do you want to take that now, or do you want to come back to it?
Sure, I can talk about that a little bit. So some of the default tools that are a highlight is we have something called a virtual classroom. Virtual classroom allows for synchronous activities and allows for a baseline. So that will be an expanded functionality that most campuses needed additional third-party tools in order to accomplish that. We have something called Insights. So it is a part of Performance Plus. So there will be for campus system administrators, there will be data that is available to them for their review and for their individual campus strategy. So that's just, two tools that I can name right there. And certainly there's a laundry list of tools and features. But those are two big ones that are unique that weren't previously available to most campuses.
Yep, and I'm just going to mention that I think folks are asking perhaps about tools that are outside of the Brightspace platform, which, as Harry mentioned at the beginning of the session, we're not really going to address in this session because there are contract implications, and because this is a public session, we can't talk about it. So we'll be happy to talk with folks offline about that, but I wanted to provide that clarification.
Thanks, Kim. All right, well, I will continue, and then again, there should be plenty of time for any questions at the end. This is the last section that I have. So when we finally had the RFP complete and we got everything organized, we provided options for all of the campuses. So we have a 2-year migration plan to have all campuses move from their current LMS to the Brightspace environment. So a lot of the discussion we'll be talking about is that cohort 1. So the first line in green there. These are the campuses that have selected cohort 1. So there are a total of 30. to save you from counting and doing the math. We did kick off with all of these campuses on February 2nd, and with a very enthusiastic meeting that went really well. And at this point, we are engaged with each and every one of these campuses in setting them up. So what it looks like, and this is a reframing of a previous slide, but for the first 4 months, there is discovery planning to make sure that we put the campus in the best position for success. So that means understanding the scope, understanding the needs and desires for the pilot, for data migration, for understanding critical tools. So there's a lot of areas that we're going through in a very detailed way to make sure that we set up the each and every campus at their specific pace to be successful for a summer pilot. Summer pilot is optional. Most campuses are moving forward to have some level of pilot. When we say pilot, from my standpoint, it is really the first opportunity to deliver full production courses. So they are real courses, real faculty, real students, real content. The pilot gives us the opportunity to support campuses without a full-scale transition to the new environment, gather feedback and understand ways that we can make improvements before the full cutover. So those are some of the main focus points for the pilot period. And certainly throughout this, training is absolutely paramount. We've touched on all of these things before, but this goes into a little more detail of that first segment, that first 4 months. So the discovery, design, and decision making. So on the right, you'll see the work groups that I spoke about before, making configuration decisions and templates, training, and all sorts of good stuff that's happening in those meetings. For the discovery itself with the campuses, there are considerations for authentication, the SIS integration, course migration. How many courses are we bringing over? Are we bringing over a semester back, 2 semesters back? What do we need to do to prepare for the pilot? What do we need to do to prepare for the fall semester? So those sorts of things. Third-party integration, again, identification of those critical tools. URL, so what URL are students and faculty going to use to get into the environment? And again, the configuration. And not to be overlooked all the way on the left, the academic policy standards work group, technical architecture and security work groups, those all played key parts to defining out the scope of the project and the asks that we are making of the campuses. And then the timeline. So I'll go through this in both high level, but making sure to hit all of the areas so that you understand what our thinking and what our rationale is with this structure. So we spoke about the initial discovery sessions, and D2L has been a great partner for us, and I haven't mentioned that, I don't believe, yet, and they most certainly deserve praise for their efforts, for their attitude. I mean, they're just nice people to work with, so it's been a positive experience. So we have the initial discovery sessions with campuses, and this is a snapshot of a single kind of campus sample. So this is not set in stone and each campus is going at a different pace, but this is generally speaking where the supports lie and a framework for planning. So the second line is talking about our first glimpses of training, fireside chats. So really important and obviously a big ask of the campuses, when is training, when can I get exposed to these things with Brightspace? So those things are happening now. And as you'll see in the timeline, they continue to expand with the training opportunities, most specifically focused on making sure that the summer pilot faculty are well prepared, and certainly understanding that summers are challenging for campuses in terms of training. So that is a strong consideration as well. The third line, the March 14th to 18th, that is when we see our campus system administrator training. So that is where, and I didn't really go into this too much. So the structure of the environment will be such that every campus will have campus system administrators that will have access to their overall campus area. And there will be a group of DLE system administrators, which is essentially my team that will be supporting all of the individual campuses in the environment. And it is that same team that will be conducting the training for each of the campus system administrators. So that will start on March 14th. Next area goes into more details with training, and I won't do this justice. Jamie Herron and Chris McDonald have been doing amazing things on the training side, so I do not want to certainly misstate anything, but I know that training will be available, and I'm sure it will be fabulous. We will continue to focus discovery configuration sessions in March 21st to 25th. So that is just a couple of weeks away. The design is that we want to make sure that the campus system administrators are trained before those configuration sessions really start. And by the time that we have those sessions start, the global configurations and roles and permissions will be set. And this will be an opportunity to further refine those configurations as appropriate for the unique needs of each campus. And post-training, campus admins will have access to the environment. We will do a sample course conversion. So for us, what that means is that no two campuses are exactly the same. There's not a cookie cutter process that we have. So we will be looking to get a handful of courses from each campus to go through an import process and evaluate the import to determine if there are any updates or tweaks in that course migration process that needs to happen before we bring in a larger number of courses. So that will happen with each campus. And so that is what that line represents. So bringing in up to 5 courses per campus and making sure that we are not, that we put ourselves in the best position for success, and we're not doing work that we don't need to do. And certainly we want to make this process as efficient for campuses, for faculty as possible. Solution review and documentation. So that is a reflection of, okay, campus, these are the decisions, these are the configuration updates, these are all of the things that we've gone through with the discovery sessions and everything. And this is kind of the, okay, we are good to take our next step forward for the finalizing the preparation for the summer semester. We'll have ongoing course migration, so that as you can see with the arrow, that will go throughout the rest of the year. We will have the faculty for the summer gaining access to their courses as early as April 8th, to prepare for the summer semester. The next two lines that start with April 11th and goes through December 21st. So up to April 11th, D2L has provided resources for each of the individual campus sessions, which are generally speaking a weekly meeting for an hour with each of the meetings. It is led by a D2L project manager, as well as an implementation specialist. So someone that can help with all of the technical components. So on April 11th or thereabouts, there is a transition from the weekly meetings with D2L per campus to an availability for D2L throughout December that's available for all campuses that are going through the process. But at the same time, the DLE system administrators who are a part of my team that have been a part of every one of the campus, every one of the campus meetings, they will continue to meet with campuses from April 11th through the end of the year in a weekly hourly meeting to make sure that any questions, any support, any additional things that our needs are handled and handled efficiently. So it was really important for me personally to have that support, have that weekly support, so that there's never a question and campus never thinking that they don't have a means to get their questions answered. And then ultimately we have May 2nd as the date that students start to access the system, and that really officially starts our production activities within the DLE environment. And with that was my last slide. So I know that was kind of a lot of information, but hopefully there is still a lot of time left. So I'm happy to address any and all questions that you have.
So Harry, there are a few questions in the chat. I'm going to just address something that I already addressed in the chat about the tools. Again, we're not going to talk about specific tools here because of the public nature of the session, but I wanted to really convey the intent in looking at tools and how we're approaching tools across the DLE. There will be a set of tools that will be configured at the global level, available to all campuses. And then there will be a whole host of tools that will be configured and determined at the individual campus tenant level. It is not our intent to tell any campus that they can't use a tool that they need. That's not at all the perspective that we're coming from. But as I put in the chat, over the past couple of years, we have gotten many requests from campuses to pursue UI contracts for tools that almost everybody is using. And those are the areas that we are prioritizing and focusing on. And if we pursue a UI contract for a tool that will be configured at the global level, it's really because that request and that priority has come from the campuses. So again, I'm not going to speak about details there, but this is not about us saying, here are the tools we're gonna provide at the system level and everybody has to use them whether you like it or not. That's not at all where we're coming from. And I just, I want to make sure that everybody is assured of that. And this speaks a little bit to governance. The rationale for the governance that we've put in place today is to make sure that we have as much input from campus perspectives as we can get in this early implementation. I do understand, and Harry understands, the pressures that has put on the timelines, particularly for cohort 1. We do understand that, and we are actively responding and looking for ways to help mitigate some of that. And that timeline that Harry just shared was an update as a result of some of the early feedback we got from cohort 1 campuses. So having that input up front is important, but this is not a one and done thing, right? Once we are through the initial implementation, there will need to be continued campus input and a mechanism for decisions about what we do on an ongoing basis across the DLE. And that is something that we are starting to think about as well. So I just want to assure everybody that this is really about supporting campuses and supporting all of you and what you need, and not about us telling you what you have to do. That is, we recognize that there are a lot of things that are campus specific that you all are still going to have to make decisions on. That's where that campus level administration comes in, and where there will be flexibility and choice for you to do what you need to do. So sorry for that long response, but I wanted to just address several things that had come up in the chat, and hopefully assure you all of the intent of where we're coming from. Okay, so I just want to call out a couple of questions. Jamie, there have been some questions about training in the chat, and I want to just give you the opportunity to comment on that if you want to.
Sure. The most recent one from Camille, the SUNY provided faculty training for the free training is going to be offered throughout the implementation for each cohort. After the implementation, I think that the plan is to share the asynchronous modules, and that we might continue to do some skilled webinars, but not necessarily to do the full synchronous training for that. The student training, again, we're going to provide those asynchronous modules. That's the plan for during the implementation, and after the implementation, you'll have access to that for your students. If there are any other questions that I missed, please feel free to let me know. I'm watching the chat actively.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, and then let me just see.
Jim, Ryan Ziano has his hand up. I don't know if you.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
Thank you. It's actually a good follow-up question. So I'm a volunteer peer tutor for Empire State College. I can only ever give maybe 30 to 60 minutes a week, but is there a plan to include volunteers like myself in training so that when we do host our sessions, we can guide students through and assist faculty in the students submitting assignments or completing coursework?
So I think that was a question to you, Jamie.
I'm so sorry. I was answering questions in the chat. Sorry, Ryan.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I'm just a volunteer peer tutor for Empire State College. So I help host sessions to help students work through papers, Office 365, or navigate the LMS. Is there a plan to include training opportunities or sessions or webinars for peer tutors that aren't necessarily full-time engaged as a student or as a faculty member?
Yeah, so we're going to have opportunities for non-instructional Brightspace use, and that will be part of our scaled webinar series. So you can look at the topics that are covered in those scaled webinars and learn about communication tools within Brightspace, or grading, or any of the other things that you're probably going to need as a tutor. Yep, and those are available. You know, they're going to be a really flexible schedule and should only take about an hour to an hour and a half of your time per topic.
Chrissy Mitchell has her hand up. Chrissy?
Hi, Harry. You probably know the question I'm going to ask, and I know that in the cohort 1, there's at least a few campuses that use Blackboard as a portal. I know the last time that we talked about this, you were pretty confident that we would be able to do something similar, obviously not the same. Are you any more confident at this point in time? Is there any information that you can give us about doing that? Because my enrollment management people are getting wiggy.
Well, we certainly don't want them to get wiki. So yes, my position is unchanged. So the way that that things will work with Duchess. Duchess will have a specific URL that faculty and students will be provided. They put in Duchess username, password, it'll connect to the global ID, and through what D2L phrases as login logic, it will get you to the Duchess Brightspace landing page. So at that point, you have the ability, or your campus administrators, system administrators will have the ability to design your landing page however you see fit. And there are widgets that can be developed that can, or just straight links to information back on your campus, because they already have authenticated. They've not only authenticated with the Brightspace environment, but they have a session with your environment as well because of federated authentication. So they should have the full access, just like they have in the Blackspace, the Black Blackboard environment.
So that's cool. Yeah, I mean, we assume that the authentication would work correctly, but we're talking more about like design elements, because I mean, we do multiple tabs. We have a boatload of information on there, and I'm sure that we're going to have to cut it down, which is good. But I mean, it sounds like we only have one landing page, and I mean, we might be getting more into the weeds, but I know that there's other campuses that are worried about this kind of thing. So I just wanted to bring it up again.
Yeah, I think that within each campus meeting, I'd highly encourage, asking those questions and going through the process. There is a landing page that is the specific one associated with authenticating into the system, but that doesn't mean that there can't be additional pages that supports students, faculty, and different perspectives like that.
That's what I was hoping to hear. Thank you, Harry.
Sure.
Do you see Ken Baldwin has his hand up? Harry, can you stop sharing your screen so we can see
Oh,
each other
of
easier?
course. Gladly.
Hi, Harry.
Hello.
Hi, this is Ken. My question is, I'm a faculty member, and I teach all online courses. And I guess my main concern is that when we use Moodle, that when the transfer takes place to this new LMS, that everything from the format and the grade book, quizzes and exams, everything transfers over to the template that we're using.
So I can talk a couple things about Moodle and where we are with that. So we came into this process understanding that SUNY had a number of LMSs that we needed to support bringing into this environment. So we do talk a lot about some other LMSs, just based on contracting things, but for Moodle, we do recognize that there is a strong group of campuses that are currently using Moodle. We have engaged with D2L, and we will be having a meeting with D2L with the Moodle campuses to talk about any concerns that the Moodle campuses have. We are engaged with 2 Moodle campuses that are a part of Cohort 1. So we have been working through the content migration steps. So we are heavily engaged with content migration from a variety of LMSs. So that is covered as a part of the implementation that we will go through.
Has the migration successfully been shown to work for those items I referenced?
So I know that there's some others on the call that can probably answer the question better than I, but I think that we can probably follow up on some of the more specifics after the meeting. So if you wouldn't mind sending an email either to DLE at SUNY.edu or harry.cargile at SUNY.edu, I'm happy to follow up with greater details on that.
Okay, because the only reason why I asked is because I've used Moodle for 10 years now, and these courses are really fully developed, and I teach about 8 courses, and in order for me to redo them over in a totally new LMS, I had already had 5 years of experience using Moodle before developing all these other courses. So, it would be very, very time consuming to have to redo everything. So that's my main concern. And I know that a lot of my fellow instructors, full-time faculty also would be, it's very time consuming to actually have to redo something. And
Yep.
The volume of courses are extraordinary.
Yep. And so the course migration process for every campus is to take a handful of courses and to go through the import process and evaluate how information is coming through. And this evaluation is going to be both on the campus side and the D2L side. And based on the results, D2L does have the ability to tweak that process to make improvements. But what we can probably talk a little more detailed offline, but for each campus, we had a communication out to the directors of distance learning and LMS administrators to create opportunities at that level to use a sandbox environment that we had created for those kinds of activities to test out the import and see what that looks like. We are letting individual campuses set the pace of when that information will be made available to faculty to use the sandbox and start testing out the experience and the new functionality. So if you have not received that yet, you may want to talk to your Moodle administrator and see what the timing might be for that.
Okay, thanks, Harry.
Sure.
You see Maureen has her hand up, Harry.
Yep. Hi, Maureen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So my question is about the training. The D2L provides their comprehensive certified training, right? And I know when we went to Blackboard had provided advanced admin training or whatever for free. So we don't have any kind of a discount on this training, and it's quite expensive at $1,500. I would like to get at least 1 or 2 people from my campus to be able to take that. So I'm wondering, will they give us some kind of a discount? When we were at the Doodle meeting and the cost of this was mentioned, I know the D2L rep, I can't remember who it was, said, oh no, I think there is a discount, or somebody said, oh, well, we would look into that. But there doesn't seem to be any information along those lines that came through. So I'm just wondering if we can ask them. I mean, they're getting a boatload of SUNY campuses. Can they give us some kind of a discount?
Yeah,
on-
so Maureen, we'll take that offline because again, that's a contractual question. Thank you.
Okay, okay, thanks, Kim. Thanks.
Jeff, you have your hand up.
Good morning, Harry.
morning.
Thank you, everybody. So just this is again maybe a too in the weeds question. I apologize, but as far as we've got faculty working in the sandbox right now, playing in there and looking around, we all kind of have that access. Are we expecting that those courses will be able to be ported over in a similar process to what we have in Blackboard already? I'm seeing a lot of shaking their heads. Thank you, Jamie and Alex.
Yep. So the sandbox environment wasn't necessarily designed for that development, but we understand that faculty are taking those actions. And so we will have the ability to bring over content that was updated and developed in the sandbox environment over to production.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all very much for the work you're doing on this too. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Jeff. So I am a little behind in the chat, so I don't know if there's any other questions that, oh,
I didn't see any in the chat. Kim, did you that we missed?
No, but I do think, I do want to come back to that, the fact that faculty are working in a sandbox, right? And that the idea of providing that sandbox was to give faculty early access to the environment to see what the functionality is. It is a generic sandbox, and the SUNY configured platform is going to be a little bit different because of the way that we're implementing it. But I think that the idea was that I've seen some of the comments in the chat that faculty aren't getting access to the environment until later. That's the point of the sandbox. And so I just want to connect that with the comment that was just made, that if they've started doing work there in their course and that will be able to be brought over, that's how we're trying to mitigate the tight timeline for the Cohort 1 campuses. We recognize that the timeline for Cohort 1 is very short, but I just want to assure everybody here that our team is working as quickly as possible to get everything in place for the first cohort. And we're making, literally weekly decisions in response to what we're hearing from the campuses to adjust wherever we can. And so, I can't say thank you enough to the Cohort 1 campuses for being in the first cohort. We know that the timeline is tight, but trust me when I say that when I look at the folks who are here from the SUNY side, as well as those on the campus who are working with us on those teams, it is our goal to do everything in our power to help you be successful, and the whole team is focused on that.
So I just want to call attention to the fact that we're at time. It's 10:03. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Maureen, did you have one last question?
I just wanted to make one comment that Jeff had asked about the support. So I've used the support link through those courses many times. They're amazing, amazing. They get back fast. They've recorded videos and sent back instructions. So kudos to that support team. It's amazing, really. So
Thanks, Maureen.
Thank you for that, Maureen. I see other people have chimed in on that level of responsiveness and the quick turnarounds that they give us. I just want to say thank you very much to Harry and to Kim for moderating, and to everyone who attended the session today. We have a number of awesome sessions planned for this day 3 of the summit. Dale Johnson will be coming up next in what time? Let's see. He will be at 11. We have an open networking discussion for online faculty at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And then strategies for culturally responsive online teaching in STEM will be from 3 to 4:15 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope to see you back. Oh, did I screw that up? I did. Wrong day. Wrong day, sorry. It's Dale Johnson and then the Wisconsin story from Renee Pfeiffer-Luckett. Sorry about that, folks. And then tonight at 7, the social networking summit after dark. That's today. So hopefully we'll see you back for those sessions. And again, thank you very much to Harry and Kim for this session.
Well, thank you, everyone.